So welcome, everybody. Some old faces, some new faces. Old doesn't necessarily mean old age. It means just we've seen them before. So, yeah, we've been talking about this book, An Open-Hearted Life, and going through one chapter a month. We're now on chapter 67. How many years has that been going on? Okay. So before we actually start the talk, just a few minutes of silence, watching your breath, and then we'll have the talk and some Q and maybe A. Yeah, answers are not guaranteed, because Buddhism is really designed to make us think. It's not just about getting the right answer and being able to say it. It's about hearing ideas and really thinking about them and applying them to our life and see if they ring true or not. Okay, so let's watch the breath for a couple of minutes. So let's cultivate our motivation before the talk. When His Holiness the Dalai Lama speaks about compassion, which is the wish for living beings to be free of suffering and all sorts of undesirable and unsatisfactory experiences. He talks about our being compassionate as being its own reward. In other words, compassion helps the person who receives the compassion as well as the person who gives the compassion. And when we're in the position of giving compassion, we don't need a thank you or a present from the person who we're giving compassion to. If we're expecting something in return, we're setting the stage for disappointment. And we're also showing that there's something in our motivation that is wanting a pat in the back, something for the self. Whereas, he says, when we give out of the kindness of our own heart, experiencing that kindness, that compassion, itself brings a sense of joy in our mind. And that joy is far beyond receiving a thank you or a gift from the other person or the people. So let's cultivate that kind of compassion that gives freely and wisely. And let's make that our motivation for sharing the Buddhist teaching this morning. So this book, The Open-Hearted Life, talks a lot about compassion and kindness, because those are really the source of having an open-hearted life. Yeah, we can have a closed-hearted life and just think about me, I, my, and mine, and the people I like, and my side, and who are my enemies that I want to harm. But that kind of mentality doesn't bring happiness to ourselves or to others. Yeah, might make you feel powerful, but it doesn't make you happy. Power and happiness are very different. So, in the chapter that we're talking about today, it's called Small Acts of Compassion Can Have Big Results. And this is really true when you look at it. There's several examples in this chapter from my own experience that you'll hear about. So I'll read and then stop periodically and make some comments. So sometimes we think that to be a truly compassionate person, we must be like His Holiness the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa. Looking at their great deeds, we think, what can I do? I'm so selfish. Okay, this way of thinking is not helpful. The Dalai Lama and Mother Teresa don't live in our families or work in our workplaces. If our spouses, bosses, employees, colleagues, neighbors, or family members need understanding or compassion, the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa can't give it to them. They aren't here, but we can. Okay, so we should not belittle ourselves or belittle the importance of showing compassion, even if it's just a little. Okay, so in other words, this thing of comparing ourselves to other people and then belittling our own abilities in any field we're doing is really, it's shooting ourselves in the foot. It's not helpful at all. And it's not true, you know. We always start out where we are, don't we? And then it's true, you start where you are and you practice and you get better. You don't start up here, you start here. Yeah. So, okay, so here are some examples. So one day, a resident of my monastery, talking about here, came to me and said, there's another person here who is often in an angry, bad mood. Guess who? Now everybody's going to get scared. Oh, maybe this is about me. No, the person isn't here now. Okay. So this is what the other person's, she's often in an angry, bad mood, and I'm tired of being around her negative energy, so I keep a distance from her. However, from studying the Buddha's teachings, I recognize that I don't have a very good attitude. What can I do? This person said to me. So I recommended that she do small acts of kindness for that person. Smile at them, give them a snack, help them when they're doing their chores. In short, just be pleasant. Okay. And then that evening, I got the following note. So here's what the note said. I would like, and this is from the person who had asked for advice earlier in the day. I would like to share with you something wonderful that happened after I spoke with you today. While walking past the person I told you about, I gave her a big smile, and she gave me a big smile back. Later, she gave me a note, because we're in silence today, that said, when I see you smile, I will make an effort to smile also. Mm-hmm. This made me realize how self-centered I was. Everything was all about me. Often, often enough, I show others a sad face because I'm not satisfied. At those times, I forget and lose the ability to practice compassion. Yeah, you're in a bad mood, some small, teeny thing, kind of drives you buggy, and then all of a sudden, our compassion is out the window, and we're just thinking, I'm so miserable, and it's this other person's fault. Okay, and so this person who wrote me the note continued, it's so wonderful that she reminded me. Now I will work to strengthen my love and compassion. Thank you for your advice. Okay. So everybody, now it's back to my voice. Everyone who comes to Sravasti Abbey eventually hears the toilet paper teaching. How many of you have heard the toilet paper teaching? Okay, you can see that people have been here for a while. Okay, for you newcomers, this is a very astute, profound teaching. Okay. Okay, so I usually give it at the beginning of a retreat when explaining that we do meditation retreat not to shut ourselves off from the world, but to learn to approach the world with compassion. Yeah, this is important because sometimes people think, oh, you're a monk, you're a nun, you just, have your own little ivory tower and you're shut off from the world, and that's it. That's not the purpose of our practice. Like it says here, the purpose of our practice is to be able to engage with the world with a compassionate heart and a wise mind. Okay. We show compassion to our fellow retreat participants by arriving to sessions on time, not leaving in the middle unless it's an emergency, and being mindful of how we walk and move. Knowing that we can communicate compassion, hostility, or apathy to others by seemingly small actions, we practice compassion by bringing mindfulness to them. Okay, so here's the toilet paper teaching. Then I tell them to pay attention to small acts of compassion. One way to do this is to change the toilet paper roll when it runs out. Okay, replacing the old used up roll with a new one is such a small thing. It takes 30 seconds? But it's something we often are too lazy to do. We think the next person who comes to use the bathroom will notice and they'll put in a new roll. I have more interesting things to do now. That's what we think. But have you ever been in the bathroom and noticed that there was no more toilet paper only when you were already in a compromised position? Yeah? Have you ever been in that situation? Yeah? Okay. Oh, how we would have appreciated it if the person who finished the old roll had put a new one in. Yeah. In this way, we see how a small, kind act that takes less than half a minute can be greatly appreciated by other people. So whenever we have the opportunity, we must overcome even a little bit of laziness to do a small act of kindness. And it's a small act, but if you've ever been in that position, it was a huge act, that you're really grateful for. After attending a Buddhist retreat, some people ask, I'm finding these teachings and the practice very helpful in my life, but my family wonders what I'm doing. How can I get my family interested? Okay, so I get this question a lot. So I tell people, go home and take out the garbage. Okay, imagine Your mother will think, I've been trying to get my son to take out the garbage for 30 years with no success. But after attending Buddha's teachings, he did it without my even asking. Wow. So small acts of kindness like this attest to the value of your spiritual practice more than hours of talk. Yeah, because you can talk to your family, oh, Buddhism is so this and this, and use a bunch of words that they don't understand. Mom, Dad, there's Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, samsara, nirvana. And your parents look at you and say, what planet have you gone to? Yeah, but you do one act of kindness that nobody asked for, and it speaks about it. Do an inner change in you. Yeah. Okay, compassion can change and save lives. As a teenager, a friend of mine was very depressed and thought of killing herself. One day, she was walking down the street, her eyes fixed to the ground. A stranger passed, and she looked up for a moment. The person smiled at her. It warmed her heart, and she began to think that maybe her life had some value. After all, someone appreciated her existence enough to smile at her. That was the spark that began her path to recovery. Yeah, she told me this story, and she was fine and, working and in a very good mood. But it's amazing. Again, small thing, smiling at a stranger. My friend Kayleen is a chaplain. Here's another story for the Missouri. Yeah, I thought they should spell it Mishura instead of Missouri. Yeah, Missouri. I lived there for about a year. And I never got used to saying Missouri. Okay, so Kayleen is a chaplain for the Missouri Department of Corrections, as well as the founder of Inside Dharma, a Buddhist group that reaches out to those in prisons and also those who have been recently released. So Kayleen worked with an inmate who was in administrative segregation. That's called the whole or solitary. Okay, it's not a fun place. So he was in administrative segregation because he was considered dangerous. ADSEG is what they call it, or the hole in prison slang, is an isolated maximum security area where inmates are locked in windowless cells except for three 1-hour periods of exercise per week. Yeah, no wonder these people have mental problems after being confined like that. Yeah, a windowless cell. Okay, so realizing that this guy was in a bad way, Kayleen asked Inside Dharma supporters to send him messages of support. Later, she received the following letter from him. This is what he wrote. It's a little bit long, but it's quite moving. So he said, "Dear friends, being in prison has been very hard for me, especially in a state where I have no friends or family. My home is in Chicago, where I have lived all my life until I came to Missouri and got myself into trouble that I could not get out of. After that, things got worse. I lost my house and my job. My wife died. Then my grandma died. Then my mother died too. And at her funeral, my father had a heart attack, and it seems that he won't make it either. I hated my life. I hated prison. I hated the world. I didn't want to live anymore, and I gave up. All I wanted to do was die. One day, the chaplain came to see me. She had heard that my mother had just passed away, and she tried to talk to me, to comfort me, to ease my pain. We talked for a little while, and when she left, I felt a little better. Nevertheless, I still planned to take my life a few days later. I had nothing left but pain, sadness, and hate. Hate is such a powerful emotion. It takes so much energy out of you to hate. It's like draining out the life that's in you until you are just a dried up prune. This is how I felt. The day I planned to commit suicide is a day I will never forget. I was going to do it at night, but an officer came to my cell door and told me I had mail. When you get mail in prison, one letter every month or whatever it is, or more, I mean, it's your lifeline. Yeah. So the officer told me I had mail. When he passed the mail under my door, I saw over 20 letters and cards. I couldn't believe it. I had received that much mail, at least not at one time. He had never received that much mail, at least at one time. As I sat down and opened the letters and cards, I was shocked to receive so much love from people I didn't know and who didn't know me. These were the letters and cards that Kayleen had asked the people at Inside Dharma to write. I felt their love, and it moved me deeply. I cried, and I knew that I could not give up. I knew I had to stop hating. The brothers and sisters at Inside Dharma and the Dharma Center opened my eyes with their love and concern. I am forever indebted to you. As one teacher said, life is what we make it. Nothing lasts forever, not even bad times. They too will pass. I look at things differently now and realize that hate can be replaced with love and joy. I can't express in words how much all of you have changed and affected my life. Prayer and meditation are wonderful, and I am more peaceful now. I send you lots of prayers and good wishes. May you have success, health, happiness, peace, insight, and receive the blessings of the three jewels. I love you all. Yeah. And that's because people wrote just to a total stranger. We never know the far-reaching effects of a small action undertaken with compassion, but they can be great. Let's not miss the opportunity to share even a little kindness with others, even strangers. So that kind of says a lot, doesn't it? And it makes us look at our own lives and ask ourselves, how aware am I of other people's experience? Just even being aware of it. Yeah. And once I'm aware of it, how much do I care about other people's experience? And how much do I just build walls around myself, not wanting to know about other people, not wanting to engage? But what do I do when I build walls about myself? What do I think about all day? Me. Yeah. And then, when you build walls, you're lonely. It's easy to hate other people and criticize them for our loneliness. Yeah. And we get all wrapped up in that, and then our mind just goes round and around and around. And I'm so unhappy. I'm so dissatisfied. Nobody cares about me. Yeah. But who put us in that state of mind? Yeah. Nobody else did. Yeah, it's not other people's doing. It's, how we responded to situations. So we're very used to blaming other people. Why am I, uh, whatever it is? Why don't I pay attention to other people's experience? Why am I that person you just described? Well, because when I was little, this and that happened, and there was, chaos in the family, and I just had to focus on staying alive myself. And so I just decided, I have to be self-reliant and take care of myself and not pay attention to other people and just do my own thing. Yeah. And so people, say that. They attribute it to the chaos when they were growing up. Yeah. From a Buddhist viewpoint, that chaos is a cooperative condition. It's the outside stimulus. But what causes us to close off in that circumstance is how we interpret the situation, and thus our emotional response to that interpretation. So there may have been chaos in the house. As a kid, undoubtedly, you don't have the mental tools to understand what's going on. You just react, maybe with fear and self-protection and so on. That's totally understandable. But now, as you grow older and you become an adult, you can revisit that situation. And instead of it always coming in the mind as, there's chaos and violence in the home, blah, 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 instead of just repeating that to yourself again and again, look at the situation and pay attention to the other people. Who was acting in chaos? Why were they doing that? Yeah. They were people who wanted to be happy and didn't know how to be happy. Yeah. They wanted happiness. They didn't know what the causes of happiness were. So they were screaming at each other or taking drugs or coming home drunk or, physical violence in the family. But what those people were really wanting was not that, because that doesn't make anybody happy. They were really wanting to happiness. And in their ignorance and confusion, they were doing those things, thinking that that acting in that chaotic way would bring them happiness. Okay. It didn't, but that's the power of ignorance. Yeah. But their real wish, what they were really screaming for inside, was, I want to be happy. I don't want to suffer. Okay. So the thing is, if we can look into people's hearts and see that that's what's going on with every single person, and that what they're doing, their actions, are just a manifestation of their wish to be happy and wish not to suffer, in their own ignorant mind that doesn't understand what the actual causes of happiness and suffering are. Yeah, are you getting what I'm saying? Yeah. So we can, we can look and see that in our own lives sometimes when we've dug ourselves into a hole or we've done, engaged in harmful behavior. What was our real wish during that time? Yeah. Even now, maybe you don't do something really harmful. Maybe you yell and scream, at your kids or at your partner. What are you really trying to say then? Are you really trying to say, when you're mad at a loved one, are you really trying to say those awful things and criticizing them and trashing them? Is that really what you mean? Or are you really trying to say, right now, I want to feel close to you, but I don't know how? Yeah, you said some words or you did some actions, and now I don't feel close, but I want to feel close. That's what they're really saying. But they don't know how to say that. So they yell and scream and insult and criticize. Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, can you see how we do that ourselves? And then, that's what's happening with other people too. And when you see, in the political realm, the kind of verbal violence and dissing of people that's going on, and the lies and the, conspiracy theories and all of that, those people are just trying to say, I want to be happy, but I don't know what the actual causes of happiness and suffering are. So I'm doing this instead. But it never makes them happy because they keep doing that. And then what happens is, instead of people caring for them and giving them the love and support they want, they get met with, some people buy into the conspiracy theories and the lies, but then other people just criticize them, which makes them more cut off, more angry. Yeah, and it becomes a record. What would we used to call it? This was in the days before iPads and iPods. A broken record, yeah, where your needle was, on your 45 and it kept playing the same thing again. Yeah, so we just keep doing the same thing again and again, trying to be happy, but actually creating the cause for our own misery and the misery of other people. Yeah. But when we can stop and see, oh, that's what's going on for other people. They're not really bad, awful, horrible, despicable people. Their behavior is not so good. Yeah. Or their behavior is harmful. But that doesn't mean that the person themselves is evil. Yeah. So this whole thing that's happening in our country now, where, you split into groups and the other side is evil, evil incarnate, that's how people start looking at each other. But I want to know, what is evil? I would love, when people are saying, oh, that person's so evil. What is evil? Give me a definition of evil. Okay, well, maybe they come up with, they harm other people. Yeah, you could say, well, that's evil. That person's evil because they harm other people. Then you have to say, do I harm other people? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Am I a perfect example of somebody who is kind and helpful and who always speaks the truth? Can we change the subject? Yeah. So does that mean I'm evil? No, I'm just trying to be happy. Yeah. Show me a different way to be happy. And then I'll act differently. Yeah. So we need to separate the actions from the person. The actions can be awful. That doesn't mean the person is. and that person can change. Yeah. There's one story I read about. I really wish I had printed this out. It was about a bunch of teenagers who were being held, I think it was in California, by the California Youth Authority, which is a horrible place you don't want to go as a teenager. It's like a teen, where they send the juvenile delinquents, the teenagers who are acting out, and they're restricted and sometimes put in cells and so on. And then when they hit 18, they're usually put into an adult prison where they are picked on and so on. So they took a bunch of kids from the California Youth Authority, and they took them to a rehab center, and their duties at the rehab center were to take some of the rehab people and the old people, it was a rehab center, nursing home kind of thing, and to take them outside and take them on walks. Yeah. So here are these teenage kids, who could handle a gun really well. All of a sudden, well, not so well because they got in trouble, but, here are these kids, yeah, and now they're pushing wheelchairs with old people, or somebody who's infirm, or they're helping somebody who's just coming out of surgery and on crutches and so on, and they're taking these people out in the sunshine just to a park where they, can see some flowers and some grass. Yeah, if you've ever been in a nursing home or rehab center, yeah, I worked in one the summer of my freshman year in college. Whoa, when you get outside, it's like, wow, because you're so locked in the building with this heavy energy. So they would take these people, and these kids were responsible for the safety of whoever they were wheeling around or, helping. And the kids came out of it, the teenagers, feeling so happy. And as they did this, week after week, I think maybe they went once a week to do this, the kids really started to change. And they began to see that, oh, I can do something useful for others, just small acts of kindness, yeah, that make me feel good. Why do I feel good? Because I connected with another living being who needed help, yeah, who didn't feel good. And by my doing that small thing, that person felt happy. And then these kids were saying, oh, there's another meaning in my life. I can have another meaning to my life besides being, the bravado drug dealer on the street. Yeah? Small acts of kindness, reaching out to others. Mm. Some years ago, it was probably like around 1998, 99, sometime like that, His Holiness Dalai Lama was having a conference with some scientists, and I was able to sit in on it. And the topic of low self-esteem came up. And His Holiness was very surprised when, people on this panel of scientists were talking about low self-esteem being something rampant in Western society. And His Holiness said he looked at all these people, they're all like PhD. They're doing very well in their careers, and they have, you know, they publish and everything, results of their research. And His Holiness looks at them and says, who is it that has low self-esteem? He's really puzzled by this. And these people, all these highly educated, successful people look at each other, and they all said, oh, we all do. And the Dalai Lama was shocked. Why? And, there proceeded a very interesting discussion where we brainstormed possible reasons why so many people have this kind of problem with low self-esteem, which I won't go into the brainstorming things. We can do that later if you're interested. But what happened afterwards is His Holiness went on tour, and he was teaching in California. And he often does interfaith things. So he was teaching at some big church in San Francisco. And he started talking about low self-esteem and compassion being an antidote to low self-esteem. And I'm sitting there thinking, do you have that reaction? How is compassion for other people an antidote to my low self-esteem? And he's talking and talking, and I'm scratching my head, not figuratively, trying to figure out what he means. And then it dawned on me, because when you have compassion, your attention is on other people. It isn't going round and around in circles about my suffering, my situation, my problem, my lack of being this and that, other people being better than me, round and around and around, all about me, I, my, and mine. And that kind of, unhelpful way of looking at ourselves, that's what creates the low self-esteem. And what does compassion do? When we have compassion, we have to pay attention to other people's experience. We have to tune in to what they're feeling. And that takes us out of our own broken record of looking at me, other people are better than me, why can't I be as better? Can't I be as good as them? Oh, the world is unfair, and so doesn't like me. I know it because they don't say good morning to me. And I never had a fair share to start with, and there was chaos in my home, and I'm traumatized, and on and on and on and on. Okay? When we have compassion, we can't get into that. Yeah? Because our focus is out. Yeah. So then I said, now I understand why His Holiness said that. Yeah. Because, we do something for others, we feel good about ourselves. Yeah. We connect with somebody. I'm remembering another story that someone told me, and he had gone to Berkeley, California, and was, just walking around Berkeley. If you've ever been to Berkeley, there's so many street people there, or at least in the past there were. And we had been talking in our Dharma class, this man had come to the Dharma class, about how important it is when you give something to give it with both hands and not just like, here. Or even, you give a present to somebody, it's their birthday, you give it with both hands. You look at the person, you don't just kind of toss it to them or whatever. So, we were really talking about this in the Dharma class. So then he went to Berkeley and he came back and he told me this story. He said, I was walking along in Berkeley, and there was one woman, sitting on the street, and she was holding her plate, her bowl, and had a little sign about, I need money for food. And he pulled out, I don't know, $1 or two, and put it in her plate. And he looked her in the eye, and he said, this is just a little bit, but I really wish you well. And he looked her in the eye and smiled. And she said, that means so much more to me than the money. Yeah, because someone acknowledged her humanity, someone acknowledged her value, someone cared about her situation. So as I was contemplating all of this and, in my Buddhist practice, it made me remember several situations I had when I was a teacher in the Los Angeles City schools. So there was one boy in the class, David, and he was a very, no, it wasn't David, it was Jamie, okay? So this one boy, Jamie, and he, very bright boy, really nice kid, very bright. And then he starts really acting out in class. He's in a bad mood when he's fighting with somebody on the playground. I don't know what's happening. And one day I was standing by the cupboards in the classroom. We were looking for something, and he was there. And he was frustrated, or I said something he didn't like. I can't remember what actually prompted this. But he took the cupboard door and pushed it and slammed it against my face. Okay, well, that is going to the principal. How I thought at that time, yeah. So I took him to the principal. And, I thought that, the principal needs to handle this situation. You can't let that happen in the classroom. Well, what I find out later, the principal was a smart guy. He called the parents in. He found out the mother and father were both there. The parents were divorcing. Now we know why David, at 8 years old, he was in third grade, my third grade classroom. Now I understood why he was acting out in class, why he had slammed that door in my face. He's confused. His family is breaking up. He doesn't know what's going on. Everything's unstable, and there's a lot of bad vibes. And when I really was able to tune into David that way, then I really regretted how I had handled the situation. Taking him to the principal, he got punished for it. If I had known, if I had been smart, okay, I would have started a conversation with David and said, what's happening? You usually don't act like this. What's happening in your life? What are you trying to say? And then he probably would have told me, and my family's falling apart. I'm scared. I'm afraid. I don't know what's going on. And then I could have, shown some compassion to him, or, I could have been the one to talk to the parents and say, chill out a little bit for the sake of your child who you love. But, at that time, this was before I encountered the Dharma, I didn't think of that. I just thought, okay, this kid needs discipline. Okay, so there's probably things in our life when we look back where if we had been smarter, if we had been, paying more attention to other people's situation, where we could have acted differently. Don't beat yourself up for missing these kind of opportunities. Beating ourselves up doesn't do any good. Learn from the situations. Look at back at that situation, and how were you thinking? What made you not see that person's situation, or not tune into where they were at, or not care? And then you can see things in yourself that, again, you don't criticize yourself for, you regret, and you know that you can change those qualities. And so here's where our spiritual practice comes in, because the Buddha taught many ways to open our hearts so that we want to be kind, so that we actually, it's so clever the way the Buddha did it, is these practices that help us see that we've been the recipient of tremendous kindness in our lives. Instead of looking at the world of, oh, I missed out on this and that and the other. It's, I've received so much kindness in my life. And when you meditate on that for a while and you begin to see yourself as the recipient of kindness, then automatically you feel connected to others and you want to give kindness in return. It just comes. And then a shift in our life starts to happen, and we are better able to really tune in and connect with other people. And then, of course, that becomes its own reward. Other people are happy. We learn. It's quite amazing when you see how that works in your life. And, if you need living examples, the Dalai Lama is one. I mean, he was made a refugee. He was forced out of Tibet in 1959. He was 14 years old. No, 24 years old. And he was forced to become a refugee in India, with tens and thousands of other Tibetans fleeing the country after him, after the Chinese communist takeover of the capital of Lhasa in Tibet. And he's a happy person. I mean, he came into India as a refugee, penniless. His people are suffering. Back in Tibet, there's something that comes close to ethnic cleansing. And, he's responsible for all these people, and he's a happy person. Well, you see that, how come this guy can be so happy when he's had all of that happen in his life? And talk about getting insulted. The communist Chinese government calls him every name in the book. And, he doesn't feel offended. He's not angry. He doesn't want violent revenge on the communist Chinese. So it's an example that, he's a regular human being who's had situations worse than ours, and he's happy. What's the key? And I think it's, being able to connect with others with compassion. So there's a reflection given at the end of the chapter. Let me read that as our conclusion here. So here's the reflection. Reflect on the kindness you have received from others during your life. Yeah, and really start from when you were little and all the people who took care of you when you were a baby, when you couldn't feed yourself. Yeah. And as you think about the kindness you've received from others, let the wish to repay that kindness arise in your mind. Think of small things you can do in your life to show kindness to those around you. And imagine the happiness you will feel knowing that you made someone's life a little bit easier or a little more pleasant. Make a strong intention to do that action and smile at the thought of doing it. Okay.
Thank you, Venerable. So now we can all rise as Venerable Chodron leaves the hall. And now Tracy has a message for all of us and her dog.
Hi, everybody. I'm her emotional support human, so. But I'm sure she would agree with me that coming up here is one of the most special things that happens in my life. Where else can you come where you can learn to kind of heal your inner self of loneliness and stinginess and confusion and wrong ways of finding happiness, and really learn a correct way that brings not only yourself happiness, but everyone around you. And then as you go further on, really getting rid of that self-preoccupation and just seeing others' sufferings and joys and being able to uplift their lives. Not that I'm there yet, but but this is that kind of place where we learn so much from the monastics and the community. And it may seem like this place just kind of sprung up out of nowhere, especially if you're new. It's like, wow, this is pretty cool. But what you're seeing is that kindness that Venerable talks about, person by person, helping paint or in the garden, through years of just this generosity and tenderness of building a place where we could all come and we get to benefit from the fruits of their labors. And equally, we can contribute today to benefit those in the future. And it really starts to hit you when you think about the teachings that when we say future, we may mean us at 10 or 5 years old in our next lives even. So this can go on in perpetuity for a very long time. And so as Venerable also mentioned, by giving we receive, and by receiving we give. The joy is reciprocal. And so just by being here and participating is a way of contributing to the success and flourishing of the Dharma. But there's many other ways. Your practice, coming up for sharing or offering service Saturdays, bringing food for the monastics, or making financial contributions, anything that you feel could help bring this to future lives, your future self, future generations. There's a couple baskets around. Don't feel you have to give, break your bank, but if you've got a lot of money, go ahead and give a lot of money too. And then we can all celebrate in the Buddha Hall when it's done. The teachings are offered completely freely, so this is not through obligation or anything. It's more of a sense of expressing your joy. And so, thank you for listening to me and Kaya.